Tell me who you know can make it rain and snow, and at the same time make the sun glow. That's like, whoa, tell me who you know.
Welcome back once again. It's your boy 2 Saint. Welcome back to the channel. All is well here. Hope all is well with you. Today I want to talk about this video I saw with Christians versus ex-Christians. Ex-Christians is a term that I don't subscribe to because I don't believe anyone can lose their salvation. Because if that's the case, we all should have lost it a long time ago the minute you sinned outside of God's will, because he's perfect and holy. But not going to get too deep into that today, but I want to talk about this video I saw, right? And this video here, and it was Christians versus ex-Christians. So let's take a look. It says, Christianity, the only true religion. Let's see the responses. The ones on the right here are the believers, and these two young ladies are not. One is actually calls herself a pagan, and it's 3 against 2, which is weird. I don't know. I guess the other person must have bailed out, I guess. I'm not sure, but here we go.
It's a good time to bring up the disagreeing side. Okay, so being on the disagreeing side, I think at least a just good question to ask before is, do you recognize any specific religion to be true?
Yes and no. I think very much up to interpretation. Like, everyone's different. Everyone's going to have different life experiences. So I can't really give a concrete answer for that. I really think it just depends on everyone's livelihoods.
Like, I follow paganism, so like I went a completely different, like not different, like to me personally, I think that there are actually more commonalities between Christianity than paganism than one thinks. Like, Christmas used to be Yule, Easter used to be Ostera. And there's just like a bunch of different connections, but I don't think that Christianity would be considered the one true religion. And I don't think that there is any religion that we should be considering necessarily the one true religion. Thousands of religions across the world. Who am I alone to say that only one of those is correct and that only one of those should be worshipped? So like in my pagan ways, like I try my best to talk to all of them, like both good and bad, because there's respect. Like, there's balance in the world and you have to have balance. Like, as above, so below. It's the same thing. But like you guys said, it's what you feel comfort in. And like, I think as humans, we all just have that desire to be accepted. And so we cling to religion and we cling to spirituality to find that acceptance and that connection while we're walking this earthly path. And wherever we believe we go is wherever we believe we go.
Like a big underlying question, what we think the purpose of religion is.
Well, the paganism thing, she calls herself a pagan, right? That's very interesting. I need to do some more research on that because I'm not really familiar with. I know pagan means you search out other gods, and that's maybe what she said, that she looked at everything, good and bad. That's a scary place to be, but let's continue.
Kind of described it as like, what brings you comfort? Whereas I think a lot of us would describe it as like, okay, what brings us like salvation to know God truly?
And like my difference with that too is like, I personally don't believe that I should have been born with sin. Like, my personal like thing is like, if I was born with sin, why did Jesus die? Like, there's legitimately no purpose of his death. He died for our sins, yet we're automatically sinners. Why do I need salvation?
That was literally the first thought I ever had when I started questioning Christianity.
She said, why did Jesus die? He died for nothing. And she doesn't think that she should be hit with, I guess, the original sin, what we call it, that all people are born with sin. I guess she got to ask herself, does she sin? Now, if she's perfect, yeah, Christ didn't need to die for you, but we know that's not true. All have fallen short of his glory, right? It speaks about in Romans. So somewhere along the line, she doesn't connect the dots, and it's very off, because you can't think that you are without sin. This is the love that God showed, because God knew that you could not be perfect. So let me go on. I don't want to preach today.
Christianity is like, well, why is sin necessarily bad if he died for
also,
it?
To back up on that too, like I remember being in Sunday school.
Why is sin bad if he died for it? The wages of sin is death. Don't we notice that sin is bad? Don't we look around every day and see how sin is bad? Don't we look at ourselves and see how sin is bad? Maybe somewhere along the line they don't understand sin, but hopefully these Christians can clear some of this up. Let's see.
and them laying out a graph, and it was like up and down, and it had murder here, and it had like affair down here, and it had lying here, and then it's a straight line, and it says all above, and it's like, okay, so I might as well commit murder and lie in the same day and then say I accept God and then I get an automatic pass. But to me, I don't think that's fair that somebody can take another human's life that God created and still get to make it into his afterlife.
Yeah.
Like, there's some very conflicting things in that I struggle to believe that that's the truth behind it.
The fact that it was like a graph, that's kind of wild to me, honestly.
Speaking of the afterlife, do you guys believe that there is a heaven or hell?
You can go a few mine's long or so.
I honestly kind of feel like hell, quote unquote, is like Earth right now. You know, there's too much bad stuff. Another thing that I question, if our God is a loving God, like, why does so many bad things happen? Why are there so many like starving children? Like, why does violence happen? It's just hard to not question those things. If it's like, okay, if there is a loving God, which I would love to believe that there's a loving creator, I do believe in that. But I also feel like there has to be some sort of reason for why the bad things happen. But I do believe in an after.
Okay, she says, why does God allow evil, right? Well, we know that man is evil. God is not evil. So if you look around, all the things that you see that evil comes from is what man is in man's heart. And we have an enemy too. So you got to think about that too, right? So she's thinking that, and this is the thing, we all think that we're not evil. And I'm quite sure everyone on the panel, including myself, has done something evil. Things that people might not even know about, things that you think about. So I think there's perspective of these women just getting a clear understanding. Let's see what the Christians do and say.
Life. I do hold some solace that I will get to see my loved ones again someday.
I believe in an afterlife, but I don't believe in an afterlife in the aspect of like heaven or hell. Like, I believe there are different realms. I believe there are different places that you can go to. I don't think that we're limited just to heaven, and I don't think that we're limited just to a hell. I think that even when you're in the afterlife, you can go and visit, because I struggle with the concept of like, once you're in hell, because I have a lot of friends and family who are Muslim, so I know I've studied a lot of Islam as well too. From what my understanding of what they have said to me is that you go to hell, but you are able to get redemption to then go and join Allah, and you join that. And so like with Christianity, I struggle with it because it's like, God knew my story before I was even born. You made me a sinner. You died for nothing. I continue to sin. You made my life suffering, and then I still have to live in eternal punishment for the rest of my life. That's not very fair. That's very cruel.
I have yet to hear the Christians respond yet. Oh man, she thinks God, she's blaming God for everything, which a lot of people do. We don't look at our own sin and our own thing and say that he died for nothing. He died for your sin, and he sent his son because he loves. So somewhere along the line, she has the story, but the story is off of a loving God and how it pleased him to bruise Jesus, his son, to die for mankind. It said he pleased him. That's how much he loves you and me. Let's see what the Christians say.
And it's like, if it was maybe to where it was like, oh, you can earn your redemption back up, it would be different. But like for me, I don't know. Afterlife is, I do believe in it, but I don't believe in the I don't know, like this straight construct of there's this or that.
McKenna, you mentioned you would love to believe in a loving God, loving creator. Do you have thoughts about just good and evil, since you talked about how it's hard for you to believe in good God will allow evil things?
Yeah, so I kind of go into, I think it's called like metaphysics a little bit, where it's like you said earlier, the balance of the universe. That's how I tell myself that is why the reason things happen. Like, again, I do believe in a loving creator. I just feel like, you know, the universe is balanced, so in order for all the good to happen in the universe, there has to be some bad that happens. So that's what I tell myself.
Quick question. I mean, I think about, like, for example, think about faith in general. I have faith that Alexander the Great was a real man and did a lot of good and bad things. Have I ever seen a man? No, but I believe him. I believe he's a real person. I think about Jesus, the same thing. Like, never seen him. I have faith that he was a real person. Can I show you evidence of it right now? No, I can't right now, of course. I bring that up just because, like, do you struggle more so with, like, Jesus as a man who came to die for your sins and what theology would say about, like, the Bible would say about Jesus? Or do you struggle more so of, like, what you consider, like, God, like the loving God, a creator?
I would say I struggle more with like the whole Jesus aspect of it. So a little bit of background, I am of Middle Eastern descent. And so the thought of this like white Jesus that, I don't know about your guys' churches, but like in my small town church, it was definitely white Jesus. And, you know, just kind of questioning, like, I don't think he had the straight hair. I don't think he had that white skin. So I would say that I do believe that he happened, but from there on, I have questions. You know, but I'll never know those questions until my time comes, and even then I won't be able to tell anyone, so.
I think that we, like, all of us would agree that Jesus was 100% like not white, right? Like, he was obviously.
Sorry.
One thing they didn't answer a lot of their very important questions. And I say this to say because I've heard people that were in churches that said they were believers, but they really weren't. They were there probably seeking, and then they would go to another faith and they would give them some type of answers. We as a church have to be able to give people answers. I don't really see these gentlemen giving answers. I don't know how they were picked. I feel like they might be young in their faith, which I get it. But this panel needs to put someone on there who can help give some clarity and understanding of a few of these things, because these young ladies have all these perspectives, but they're not getting clear answers. Now we're on the white Jesus. When we went away from sin, we went away from Jesus. Now it's on to what Jesus looks like. All right.
Yeah, I know. I hate to break it to you, but he wasn't. You know, one thing that I will say is that I think that the American church, and I'll say this with confidence, I think that they have done an awful job of representing who Jesus is. And for that, and I'm sure that we all agree, I'm very sorry about that. A lot of churches in the United States, and some that I've experienced, that just like, they give you this picture of Jesus that's like your life is going to be 100% better, and they create this narrative that Jesus is only here to make you a good person. The Jesus that we believe in is that these other religions, they exist to make bad people good, but Jesus comes to make dead people live, right?
I really agree. I've always had like an issue with, particularly the West portrays Jesus, especially with making him out almost to be self-help. Like he's just another self-help tool.
Yeah.
I really don't like that, because I kind of believed in that sort of gospel at first, until I'd read the Bible and I would come to really challenging verses where Jesus asked me, okay, sell all your possessions. And I'm asking, what in the world does that mean for me? Or he tells, like, you know, he says, carry your cross. I know what Jesus did when he carried his cross. He went and died. Like, what are you asking me to do? When we portray him as self-help, we really...
See, lack of discipleship. I don't know what church he goes to, but when Jesus says to sell all his items, he's talking to the rich man, and the rich man said he was holding on to the law, and he said, well, if you did, sell everything. The rich man couldn't do it because Jesus knew his heart. He knew that the richest had his heart, and the rich man walked away sorrowful. So that's just one truth that's in the text, and he's trying to figure out, well, what does Jesus mean by take up your cross? If Jesus died, yeah, we're supposed to be dying daily to ourselves to be more like him. It doesn't mean that we're going to pick up a physical cross and physically die like him, but we die in such a way that's a spiritual aspect that we're supposed to put others first and take up our own cross and lay those things aside that is not of the spirit but of the flesh. So I'm really sorry for these guys, because I'm really realizing that churches are having a problem with discipleship.
You just miss a point of the gospel. It's not about me, but it's more about the world around me. It's about his kingdom.
When you think about the story, since you guys did both grow up in the Christian church, by the way, some of the stories you're telling me about how your church portrayed Jesus and Christianity, I would never choose them either. I mean, is there a part of Jesus' story or the story of God that would have made you say something different than like, I don't really like that idea that he suffered for no reason, and then the whole thing you just brought up, like, is there a part you'd be like, if he had done this though, I would maybe start to believe more?
I mean, honestly, probably not. I have a lot of friends who are Christians, and I very much respect their beliefs, just as I want the respect for mine. But at the same time, like, for me personally, there has been so much oppression that has come with Christianity and under the name of God. And I'm not, like, there are legitimately people who are out there that are good Christians who believe the Bible, who worship the actual Bible, and I do respect that, and I think that that is beautiful, because I do think there is a lot of beautiful things within Christianity. But I think it has become weaponized throughout history. I personally have found so much freedom and rejoice in myself as a person, as a woman, worship myself as a goddess almost, in the aspect of, like, I am one with nature and I come from nature and nature comes from me.
This is the key of all mankind. We've all worshiped ourselves. I've been guilty of it, putting myself first and things of that nature, but she said she calls herself a goddess. I think sometimes we don't look at it from that perspective, because God has made us all to worship, and we all worship something, right? So you got to think about that. She said she worships herself. It's very interesting. Ask yourself, do you worship yourself? There's been times I have, right? Especially before Christ, it was really bad. It was all about me, and didn't care. But now she's considered a pagan. I'm going to go through that and see exactly, because I don't know all the details about what she worships, but I do want to find out. But she worships herself, so hey, let's see what's else.
Not that I come from a man's rib, not that I come from, or that I'm the fall of sin like Eve, because it's Eve's fault that we sinned, and I think that's another ways that they control women, they weaponize. There is too much that I can look at from the Bible and say that I just don't agree with it, to not be able to, like, really fully, I think, dive back into Christianity again.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally see that perspective, honestly. If you do read that lens, see, there's a pretty decent bit of things you can kind of pull out from there.
Christianity should adapt to modern culture.
Well, I'm going to do another video on this part. Christians should adapt to modern culture. Let me know what you think about the Christians and how they responded. It seemed like the pagan girl, I don't know what the other girl believes. She's not a believer in Jesus, but she says she believes in a higher power. But anyway, but the thing is, how do you think they responded? Do you think they did a good job of answering some of these lies that were told? They were lies that they've been taught from somewhere else and from reading something or talking to someone. So, do you think they did a good job? Because I didn't think I heard a lot of help. I heard a lot of niceness, right? Trying to be polite, trying to be nice. The Bible says in Galatians 5 that we should be kind. Kind is still having a person's interest, but also willing to tell them the truth. When you want to be just nice, you just want to be accepted, and you want the approval of the person rather than shaking the boat. And I think we have that nice and kindness mixed up with an emotion of, like, somebody has to, because you're saying something, you don't have to be emotional outrage, right? But you can also share kindness and you're sharing the gospel, the good news with these women, trying to be kind to them to help them understand truth. Being nice and polite only leads to you being covered, being cushioned, and them being cushioned, so they don't feel that you are against them. Last thing, I was telling my wife about some Mormons I had met, and I said they're very nice, but the minute when you try to ask questions or challenge them on some of their beliefs about how they believe they're going to be gods one day, and in Isaiah 40 it says that there's no other gods before me or after me, then they'll say you're Bible bashing. That's not Bible bashing, because you can come off to me with all your beliefs, your Mormon book, and all those things, your prophets and those things. But the minute that I say certain things, then it got to be a place of I don't want to have this conversation anymore. And it was funny because it just happened this week, and I said it's funny because I had a lot of people that were there when we were on the street, and they was like, "You didn't even say anything wrong." I said, "I know. It's just that when challenged." And I'm being kind, trying to give him the truth. I'm not just being nice and trying to get the approval of him. So think about that. And we'll get back to this. I'm going to do a few because it's kind of long, so I'm going to do a couple of parts on this. So keep a lookout, and if you don't know, now you know.